Hi all, welcome to the video lecture for Writing for Academic and Professional Success. In this video, we are going to discuss the fourth unit, Elements of Writing. So before moving on to the fourth unit, Elements of Writing, let's just rewind what you have already learned in the previous three units. So previous units have familiarized you with genres and types of academic writing, different approaches to academic writing, etc. So you might have learned genres and types of academic writing such as essays, research paper or article, proposals, case study, review of literature, dissertation or thesis, etc. And different approaches to academic writing such as expository, descriptive writing, persuasive writing, analytical writing, critical writing or evaluative writing, or narrative writing or reflective writing. These different categories might have already taught you by teachers. And besides these two things, you might have already learned different features of academic writing, such as academic writing should be formal in nature, academic writing should be objective in nature, and academic writing should be technical in nature. I'm not going to give you the details of all these things because you might have already got them in the previous classes, and you might have already got familiarized with process of academic writing, which include pre-writing, writing, and revising. And purpose and audience in academic writing is a necessary thing you need to when you are writing an academic piece of or academic essay. You should be well aware of the audience of the writing or the essay you are writing and the purpose of the writing you are going to undertake. So now the intended audience is a must in order to communicate the idea you are trying to communicate through the writing. And you should also use third person in order to make your writing more objective in nature. And you might have already learned the structure of an essay. That means an academic essay, an academic writing usually has three types of paragraphs. First, we'll have an introduction paragraph, and after that, three or four or maybe five body paragraphs, and at the end, you will have a conclusion paragraph. And you might have already familiarized with terms like thesis statement, which is the most important point of the essay, which usually occurs in the introduction paragraph, and topic sentences. Topic sentence is the important point of each paragraph. So each paragraph must have a topic sentence, a important point, and transitional phrases, which are actually used to indicate the transition from one idea to another idea or from one paragraph to another paragraph. So these are the most important elements of an academic essay. So these are the things you might have already learned in the previous chapters or units. Now let's move on to the next unit. So the fourth unit of this particular book is Elements of Writing. This chapter basically discusses different rhetorical strategies such as narration, description, illustration, argumentation, comparison and contrast, cause and effect, definition, process analysis, classification and division. So these are the different rhetorical strategies we have to use while engaging with academic writing. So we need to know what is actually meant by rhetorical strategies or the term rhetoric. Rhetorical strategies. The term rhetoric and rhetorical refers to the ways you can adopt to communicate effectively with the audience. So we know that while we write something, our intention is to communicate the idea properly with the audience. So if we write something and the audience are not able to catch what we have written, there is no meaning in that particular writing. The basic idea of writing an academic paper is to communicate properly with the audience. So we have to employ certain strategies, certain methods, or certain tricks to reach our ideas effectively to the audience. So these strategies or these tricks are known as rhetorical strategies. So the term rhetoric basically means ways of speaking or ways of writing effectively. Okay. So rhetorical modes are your strategies to reach your audience effectively or in a much better way. So when you speak or write, you need to be convincing enough to make your reader accept your argument. Okay, when we write an essay, we have to write it in such a way that the reader is able to understand what we are actually writing in it, and we also have to convince the reader to believe our argument or accept our argument. So for this purpose, we need to employ certain strategies. These strategies are known as rhetorical strategies, and these include different strategies such as narration, argumentation, etc., which we will be discussing in the coming slides. The first rhetorical strategy which we can use is narration. You might have already learned the term narration, or I'm sure that you are already familiarized with this particular term: narration, narrator, narrative, etc. In films or in novels, we'll have certain people who are narrating the story to us, right? So narration, what is narration? Narration is a rhetorical mode suitable for relating a sequence of events or thoughts. Okay, a sequence of events or thoughts are there, not a single event or a single thought, but a sequence of events or thoughts are there. So we have to relate them, we have to arrange them and relate them in a particular sequence. What happens first, then what happened, then after that what happened, like that we have to arrange them in a particular sequence. So narration is a much better option for this kind of a rhetoric. So any kind of writing that brings out a story, fictional or real, can be considered a narrative. And what is meant by narrative? Narrative can be considered as any kind of writing that brings out a story, fictional or real. That could be a fictional story or real story, that can be considered a narrative. So for example, we can see a short story or a novel can be considered as a narrative because it gives us a story. Even a film, a movie, can be considered as a narrative because it gives us a story. It tells us a story in a particular order. And even sometimes the news reports from newspaper, or even news reports from TV channels or news channels, can also be considered as a narrative because it gives us a story, sometimes real stories or sometimes fictional or imaginative stories. So narration is a method which is suitable for telling stories or explaining stories. So narratives can be classified as fictional narratives and non-fictional narratives. Okay, there are two types of narratives: fictional narrative and non-fictional narrative. So fictional narratives obviously gives us imaginary or imaginative stories, whereas non-fictional narratives gives us realistic or stories from real life. So all the essential details must be provided in an organized way in a narration. Okay, in a narration, all the essential details should be given in an organized way. What happened first, then secondly what happened, then after that what happened. In that order, we have to give all the details. So subjective mode of writing can be adopted. We know that in academic writing, it's not advisable or it's not advised to use subjective mode. You are familiar with the idea subjective and objective, right? Subjective means while we writing a particular essay, our personal feelings or our personal stand appears in the writing. That kind of writing is known as subjective. Whereas objective writing means we don't bring in our personal choice or personal feelings in the academic writing. Such writing is known as objective writing. But in the narration, in this particular rhetorical strategy, we can use subjective mode of writing if necessary. Okay, it's not necessary, but if it has to be used, we can use narration, subjective mode in narration. So as we already said, there are two types of narratives: fictional narratives and non-fictional narratives. So fictional narratives include short story, novella, epic, novel, folklore, orature or oral stories, etc. Whereas non-fictional narratives include autobiography, that means life writing or life stories of a person, biography, news report, and essays. You know the difference between autobiography and biography, right? Autobiography is a life story written by the same person, whereas biography is a life story of another person written by another person. Okay. So these are non-fictional narratives. So in biography and autobiography, obviously there will be uh, real events from the real life of the person. Okay. So what are the other important things to be taken care of while writing a narration or narrative essay? Writer's personal experience or any other sequence of events can be included. That's what we already discussed. It could be subjective in nature. Okay, writer's personal experience or any other sequence of events can be included. First or third person point of view can be employed. Okay, usually first person point of view should not be included in academic writing, but in narration or in narrative essay you can employ first person narrative. You can say, you can use I felt, I thought, like that. Okay, so thesis statement, you know what is meant by thesis statement, right? Thesis statement is the most important point of the essay. So thesis statement should be introduced in the opening paragraph itself. Okay, introductory paragraph itself, we should have to use thesis statement. Then sense of time should be kept in mind while arranging body paragraphs. Okay, body paragraphs are the paragraphs in which the details of the points are described. So in while arranging the body paragraphs, we should keep a sense of time, because what happened in the initial stage in the beginning should be given in the first body paragraph, and what happened after that should be given in the next paragraph. So a chronological order or a sense of time should be kept, and effective transitional phrases should be used. Transitional phrases are phrases that are used to indicate the change from one paragraph to another paragraph or from one idea to another idea. So effective transitional phrases should be used, and we should generate curiosity among readers. Okay, narration is kind of storytelling, so we should actually generate curiosity among the readers in order to catch their attention and in order to make them read the essay completely. Okay, and you can include dialogues, recounting of actions, physical description of places things and things can be used to help the readers visualize. Okay, these things should not be included in other kind of essays. Dialogues, recounting of actions should not be included in another modes of writing, but in narration all these things are allowed, because we need to catch the attention of the reader, so we can employ all these things for that purpose. Okay, so the first one is narration. The second rhetorical strategy is description. Description is similar to narration in some sense, but a bit different as well. So description involves presenting information in a manner appealing to the senses, our five senses, right? Sight, sound, smell, taste and touch. So when we describe things or information in a manner appealing to our these five senses, that should be considered as description or descriptive essay. So things, people or events are usually described in such essays. There are two types of description: objective description and subjective description. In objective description, writer's personal views and observation are not important, whereas in subjective description, personal impressions on the subject discussed are allowed. Okay, writer's personal opinion about the subject which is discussed are allowed in subjective description. Okay, what are the important things to be taken care of while writing a subject descriptive essay? There can be full length descriptive essay or descriptive paragraphs in other types of essays. Okay, some essays could be descriptive from the beginning till the end, whereas we can find some descriptive paragraphs in narrative essay, we can find some descriptive paragraph in argumentative essay, etc. as well. So that's also possible. Okay, we can have full length descriptive essay, or sometimes we can have descriptive paragraphs in other modes of essays. So thesis statement can be implicit or explicit. Things can be clearly explained in the thesis statement, or things cannot be clearly explained. We can give more details in the further paragraphs of the essay. So arrange description either in a chronological order or in the order of their importance. Okay, you can arrange the details in the chronological order, what happened first, then what happened, like that, or you can arrange them in the order of their importance as well. And it's better to use sensory details of sight, sound, smell, taste and touch to enable the reader to create a mental picture of what you describe. Okay, sensory ആയിട്ടുള്ള writing should be included. Then use active verbs. It's not advised to use passive verbs. You should always use active voice sentences in the descriptive essay, and avoid unnecessary figurative language expression. In narrative essay, you can use figurative or literary language, but in this kind of essay you should avoid that.